for Europe, for the European market, it's top of the pops. Like all my competition charges 50, where I charge 150. And then people come from gymnastics, from soccer, and they want to do an intro class, and then they ask about the pricing, and then all of a sudden it's 10 times more than they are used to pay for what they did before. And that's what I mean with we have to try harder and we have to be better. And I think the Americans have made it 10 years earlier than we did to educate the society that karate is way more than kicking and punching, but it's a life-changing activity. So we're way behind that. And we have to make this transition to be successful in any way. Plus, Germans a lot of times have a cheaper is better mentality. I remember when I opened up one school 20 years ago, and then a year later, a Wing Chun guy came and he opened up his school down the block. And he came and he asked me what my tuition was, and I told him, and I thought he's going to go take the same, but he offered 3 times as many classes as me, and he took half of the tuition. And I'm very happy that he's there because he's bodyguarding me, because whenever I drive around his school, he has people with a bottle of beer and a cigarette standing in front of his school waiting for their kids. And I'm very, very happy that he's there because I don't want these people anyway, right? So, but that's the mentality, cheaper is better. And that's why it's difficult. Just like I said with the Elio Gracie Don't Tap story, effectiveness to me, effectiveness over ego was something that was always important to me because I couldn't afford to make mistakes. And a very painful lesson was when I was 15 years old, I fought state championships. I won the first couple of fights. I advanced to semifinal. Semifinal was on a different floor. And when I went to the floor, I saw there's a bunch of girls sitting on the grandstand, all beautiful girls on the grandstand. So you're 15 years old, and I could do everything with my legs, and I can do every jumping thing there is. And so the ref said, fight. I wanted to impress the girls, and I did a beautiful, beautiful I did one of the most beautiful jumping spinning hook kicks ever done on a tournament. Problem was, the guy just stepped on the side and he punched right in my face. And the pain was not so much in my face, but in my ear, because I could hear the girls laughing. And of course, I was so embarrassed by that I said, okay, that was the last time that I'm going to get ego get in the way of my effectiveness. And that's why today I have small schools. The smallest of my schools I have to look it up because I count in square meters. It's 1,184 square feet, the whole place, including locker room, 1 toilet, and 1 changing room for the instructors. The mat space is 750 square feet with a pole in the middle, and the student count is 330. Yes?
You say 1,100 square feet?
Yes. I show you pictures. Everybody wants to see it. I can show you some pictures. It's like you walk in, there's a space for your shoes. You walk in, you can put your shoes in, you have to bow, you're on the mat. That's it, right? And if you want to go to the toilet, you have to take your shoes off and you have to go over the mat to the toilet. We don't have space for the parents, but the location is in the middle of a walking street, and it just does things by itself. So, and I have a lot of schools with that. Like they have 750 square feet mat space, 800. I have another school, 850 square feet mat space, 335 people, and that was basically the lesson that I transitioned from one of the most embarrassing, not one of the most, the most embarrassing experience in my fighting times to the business. And I think we're less dependent and less vulnerable if we pick a good location and if we're good. If we're just good, if we're doing what we're doing. And we have now, in our stats, we have new members we gained through 45% through Windows, because all my schools are at main roads, right? There's always a nice window. So 45% is windows, 30% is referrals, although we don't have a referral program. And I've been asked many times, well, if why don't you do a referral program, then you get even more. But there's also psychological studies that people refer you more often if they just believe in what you do instead of you paying them for it. So as Never Change a Winning Team, I'll leave it as it is. I enjoy 30% referrals every month. And so that leaves me to only 25% paid ads, which meant that like last year, I don't know what it was like in the States, but in Germany, in April, Meta changed its algorithm, and of course they still took the advertising budget, but the results were total crap. And it stayed like that for a couple of months, and then I took an agency to build it back up because I couldn't do it myself anymore. Before I did Facebook ads myself, because I always said, I don't know much about marketing, but the mixture between me being a missionary martial artist and a father made me just, pick the right spot, but then it didn't work anymore. And also so when things go sideways with something like Meta and you're not totally depending on it because it's only 25% of what you make, then maybe you're going to bleed, but you're not going to die. And also, due to my security thinking, I put profit over gross. I know that I met many people that had beautiful, beautiful places with a cage and 50 heavy bags and a ring and all that, but they're always whining about not making enough money. And when I talk to the people, I said, look, while I'm with my small school, but while you are still paying rent, I am already eating steak. Right? But everybody got to know what he wants. I was always profit over gross. And I know school owners that make a huge gross with one-digit profits. That means as soon as the wind blows, they're going to bust. And our profit was it was 52.8% in 24, and the profit percentage decreased in 225 to 47.6% because I hired more staff, but the actual number increased by 7.8%. So. And I loved that when we talked about it yesterday, that Master Reed said, can you buy a house on a 1 year's profit? I think that's a great leverage to just measure it, right? And I always try to secure profits by adapting prices very regularly, like probably everyone here does. But last year, I had an increase in students, 9%. But the increase in gross was 16.9% because I increased prices a little bit in April. So the major fact while we're doing well what we're doing is we made it to separate ourselves from a sports activity. My schools is one of the very few things that sound way better in German than it does in English. Like, my schools are called martial arts and character schools. And my mission is we make children strong and parents proud. And everything we do, we try to implement that thought, because that now, it's always very easy, to write it in an ad, to market that. But what we market, we have to deliver. If we start not delivering what we market, then we're not going to get anywhere.